Hello and welcome to Accounts Playable, where we take stock of our latest episode. This is an after show, not a before show. So if you haven't watched the episode, but you're watching this, you've made the wrong decision. It's also the last episode, so definitely go back and watch it and then come back. We'll still be here. So, hello. We've got you. We've captured you. Mm-hmm. We've kept you here against your will. You even brought a sweet boy, the true mastermind behind it all.
That's right.
Mr. Perkins, Mr. Crawford, welcome. So, it's been 15 years of this bullshit. How do you think it's going? Maybe I should bring that back.
You go first.
It's as wacky as the first day, really. Mm. So in that respect, I guess nothing's changed. Yeah.
Just taking it one day at a time.
It's wacky D&D antics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same slapstick shit.
Exactly. Delivered with grace and aplomb.
Well, I think the grace and aplomb is coming from y'all. No bullshit here. I work with them, I know. I think something that's very exciting about this, I have a lot of questions about like, what did you intend and how did it turn out? But I'm gonna start with something a little bit more basic. Trading off, having two DMs at once, two DMs, no waiting, was not the original plan when we first thought of it. But then it was something that you guys came up with, if I recall correctly. So was that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and then what made you think of that? What appealed to you about sharing the DM seat? It feels a little bit like...
Less work.
Okay.
Less work.
Okay.
Yeah.
We love that. That was the only reason. Yeah.
So, originally I was going to DM all of it. And we right now are working on the new versions of the core rule books. Oh. And I realized just from a time standpoint, I'm not sure I had the mental space to do all 10 episodes myself. But Chris and I had also been talking about him coming back because I have been telling him for years, almost immediately after I started DMing ACQ Inc., I would say to Chris, if you ever want to come back and, DM a game, that I would love it if he came back. So I was delighted when, Chris, you came back for Unplugged. And then we thought, well, why don't we keep this going? And thankfully, Chris said yes. Thankfully, Penny Arcade said yes.
Oh, are you kidding me? I was excited. I was so jacked for East that, I made a wrestling...
it was East, not Unplugged.
That's okay. Yeah. I made a wrestling video about it, so I'm excited. The fact that you were willing to go with our bullshit in return was exceptionally fun.
Right. And I think my last game with Penny Arcade was in 2018, so it was right before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Basically.
So it's been a good long while.
I had the whole pandemic to kind of recharge and...
Absolutely. You'd been helming that for a good minute. Mm-hmm. In fact, I think, you're no matter, it's going to take a minute before you are unseated as longest running. And it's just been nice to see. It's also been nice to see, I think, the differences in your approach. We've actually talked about it in this space before, so watch for that if you want to see what they really think. No, it's been very interesting actually hearing what people think about Dad 1 and Dad 2. There's of course DM Daddy, and then there's the Crawfather. And it's been fun watching as a viewer, and it's also been fun like watching how, as a coworker, as a colleague to these players, kind of how each of you manage the different facets of, frankly, hell. You put people through hell in very distinctly different ways, and it's been really just fun to watch. So I think I really want to ask what were your... it's 9 levels of hell, right? You're building a haunted house. You're building a weird escape room that everyone has to theater their way out of. How do you get inspiration for that? What were your inspirations for your respective session, for the arc as a whole? How did you enmesh those things?
One of the places we started with was Phandelver and Below, the Shattered Obelisk, which is a project we have coming up.
Yes.
Which is centered around this object, a rather sinister-looking obelisk. And we thought, well, dovetailing this story into some of the themes of that story made a lot of sense timing-wise, just to create a little bit of resonance across different experiences.
Yeah.
And then, so we said, okay, well, Phandelver and Below is this particular story about this particular obelisk, but there are other obelisks in the D&D multiverse. So let's take one of the other ones and kind of craft a story around that has some of the themes from Phandelver and Below, the Shattered Obelisk, but are completely unique challenges customized for this particular group of players.
And it's that customization where we then threaded in the Asmodeus plot that has been sometimes in the A plot and sometimes the B plot in ACQ Inc. for the last couple of years. And we thought this would be a fun mixture of taking the obelisk flavor. I'm now suddenly thinking of soft serve ice cream because we did it in one of the sessions.
Absolutely, why not?
We take the obelisk flavor and we swirl it with...
There's that middle lever.
Yes.
Imagine.
Yes.
Yes. And then we also wanted to kind of make this series go back to D&D's roots a bit with a kind of a dungeon crawl experience.
Oh, hell yeah. And you're in Greyhawk. I mean,
exactly. And that's part of the reason. We're in the world of Greyhawk. It's a classic setting, which was sort of dungeon focused. And we thought it seems like a perfect setting. And that actually made it easier on us for planning wise, because you can take a dungeon and essentially break it down into levels. And each level can be its own session or episode. And that's what we did. And then I think the rest of the inspiration came from the Dwarven Forge setups that we saw.
Okay.
We sort of decided, okay, we'll give them a theme for each level, and then just let them design something. And then when we saw the early builds of the sets, that inspired a lot of the actual encounter building.
I'm actually really impressed with that. I mean, I'm also the sort of person who I found out I know there's cute terms for this. When it comes to my own DMing, I find I'm probably better as a character because your boy I will write historical discourse about the world that I'm creating. And then I will want to figure out ways to make sure everyone hears the historical discourse. And it turns out no one actually wants that. That's just me.
So we're both super busy. So we were happy to wait until we actually got the builds of the dungeons to have to think about it. So, we've done this enough.
Oh, absolutely.
That we can come up with a storyline and interesting encounters fixed in those locations pretty quickly.
And I think we both thrive on and we've gone through this together many times over the years where we're given a design problem to solve, a very limited time to do it in, and very tight constraints.
Yes.
And I find both of our imaginations thrive in that environment. So we gave Dwarven Forge just a few sentences about each of those levels. They came back with all these details, and then we came up with what do those details mean. So the diorama steered a lot of the details in the individual sessions. And there were some through line elements. We knew the whole conceit of they're getting the different pieces of the obelisk, that they'd be whisked from one level to the next. We knew that because I would be shepherding, for the most part, the Asmodeus plotline, even though Chris's sessions also touch on it, we also knew that there was this sort of meta plot about this impossibility. And I won't say what it's about just in case someone is watching this video and has not watched the series.
Somehow didn't listen to us, yes.
And so we knew that I would be threading that through to the end, because we also knew I would be taking the final episode.
No, that's a good decision. I think what's exciting to me is the idea that, the idea that you've allowed there to be sort of a symbiosis between what's crafted for it and what you have ideas for. So I guess you had Asmodeus. Were there any things in particular that you really wanted? I love what's happening here, by the way. Everyone, this is Milo, and he's a prince. We love him. He's the
half lying down, half standing.
My favorite person on Earth. No, so I wondered if there was anything in particular that you really wanted to push forward with the characters, with the campaign, with the setting. While Milo figures out how he's going to make his bed. He's just gonna make his whole bed right now.
Yes.
It's great.
Forgive me for a second.
No, don't worry. We can take all the time.
He has to make a comfy bed.
Yeah, it's, you know what? This is fine. Baba. And those are great pillows.
And he's just gonna end up going back.
Okay. You know what?
He gave up on the pillow.
He had a whole
Just come right here, buddy.
Have a seat.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
This is what makes it fun.
That's right.
Yeah. So as far as you have the devil on lock. You have the devil on speed dial. Was there anything in particular that you were trying to push forward, or revive or bring about?
For me, it was really about just making sure that moving from session to session, episode to episode, each one felt unique and distinct, a different feel from the one before and after it, just so you can kind of see the variety. And in my storylines, I was constantly thinking about the Jim-Omen relationship because we're kind of reinventing it all together here.
Yeah.
And so finding just encounters and things that might, in some small or big way, shed new light on a very well-known and beloved relationship and kind of maybe even shake it up a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Show you new facets, new aspects of that relationship. Because we're not dealing with the same Jim. And Omen has been through a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, Omen has made a lot of weighty choices in recent years. So he is a very different Omen from the Omen even 3 or 4 years ago.
I will jump back to that, but I have a couple actually. I have a couple like very silly, very me as a fan oriented questions. The first is call and responses. We're talking about live games right now, but the call and responses started in 2013 with Green Flame, which is a reference to Big Trouble in Little China. Myself, I had not seen the movie, went back and watched the movie, and I was like, they don't scream it, and then thought that at some point later in the movie, it's like a very small line. I love this. So it was Green Flame. Later, I think it was 2016, Tomb of Annihilation. There was Prepare to be Annihilated.
Right.
Which, good sounds.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we didn't stay long enough in the Tomb of Annihilation. And then, of course, you brought in that blood, 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 blood.
We also had 18.
We had 18, that's right. I forgot the T-Rex.
Right. Yes.
No, it wasn't a T-Rex,
It
a
was a
Triceratops.
Triceratops.
Thank
Correct.
you, 18. 18 is an unsung hero, in my opinion. As a person who actively forgot writing it into my notes. But, so first of all, when did you realize Green Flame was getting out of hand?
Getting out of hand? Is it out of hand? I'm not sure it is out of hand.
Well, then I retract the question. Are you sick of it yet?
No.
Okay.
Heavens, no.
Is there an upper limit to audience participation bits?
So I experimented in the PAX South episode where I introduced Blood, Blood, Blood.
Yes.
I experimented, I think of all ACQ INC episodes, that was probably the most intense audience participation episode that the show has ever had. And the reason why I say this is it might not have come through on the video, but if you were there in that theater, whipping that crowd into a frenzy to yell blood, 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 actually veered on the terrifying.
It shook into the basement.
Yes.
It made the monitors sound strange.
And that is the one show, because I was sort of impishly as a DM testing how far can I push this? And on stage, and I've never gone back to like look at the video to see if I can spot the moment where I'm on stage as the DM. There was a moment during that PAX South episode where I thought, what have I done?
Yeah, oh shit.
Because they were yelling it so loud and so enthusiastically, I suddenly had this terror that like, I could ask them to do something terrible right now and they might do it.
Oh my God.
So for me, ever since that episode, as thrilling / terrifying as that was,
you're afraid of your own power.
I've dialed it back a little bit because the Blood Circus episode.
God, that's a real shame because I love that thing.
While thrilling, it was intense.
I will say I experienced that specific moment. The first round of Blood, Blood, Blood. I believe I was backstage, which in San Antonio was underground and back quite a ways. And then at a certain point, I was walking out backstage in order to leave. And it was just as loud as Bumped. And it was like, all right, I think I like this guy. It was like, all right, well, he knows what he's doing, I guess. It's fine. So that could have been a problem.
But if I'm standing in a line at a security line in an airport or something, or at the gas station, and somebody yells out Green Flame.
Oh, okay, I was waiting for blood. Yeah. It happens?
Oh, yes.
I'm delighted. That's wonderful. Yeah. Does anyone yell blood at you?
No.
I mean, Jeremy. Does anyone yell blood, blood, blood in your direction?
People have, and also Green Flame.
I love this.
Yeah.
I didn't know we were that annoying, but I'm delighted to learn.
And again, I do not think Green Flame has overstayed its welcome. I think
not
it's
at all.
so fun. I have a double love of Green Flame because in addition to me loving Big Trouble in Little China, where the line first came from, Green Flame is also associated with my favorite Disney character, Maleficent.
Oh my God, of course.
So that actually precedes Big Trouble in Little China.
And I think she says she's going to come at him with all the fires of hell.
And
she
exhales Green Flame.
Yes, she actually explodes into Green Flame to become the dragon.
Yes.
So I'm into this. I'm all about it. I guess when I say out of hand, it's the bringing up Green Flame anywhere and everywhere and all the time. But if that's not out of hand, great.
No.
I guess I had it completely the fuck flipped. I was just like, blood. Very normal thing for
I was going to
crowd
introduce
full
some
of people
Green
to
Flame in episode 9, but we just started to run out of time toward the end.
Do you think there's room for regular flame? This is a question I asked earlier in the series.
Regular.
You see, at some point, someone, I think it might have been one of yours, where it was like, and it's just this thing, and they were like, is the flame green? And then it was regular flame. Everyone goes, regular flame, just to themselves.
And we did have Green Flame in a couple of my episodes this week, including the finale episode, but I introduced it in a super tragic vision that Omen was having. And so the players, they did not feel it was appropriate to yell out Green Flame.
It's one of those things where I think everyone was going, Green Flame.
Yeah. And I won't spoil again in case someone is watching this and hasn't watched the episode, but it is a super tragic scene.
Yes. Something that I find very interesting is the way that each of you hurt the players. And not, obviously, it's with consent. It's a polite thing. It's a polite thing. It's a gentleman's agreement. I would say what's interesting and what I've observed as an outsider is that it feels like you will hurt the players with a sort of delight and like you've activated my trap card, beautiful anime villain feeling. And I find that is fascinating and terrifying. I like the idea that that you're the rules designer, but you're the one who will destroy someone with rules. It's the thing that I found iconic that people have talked about is the moment from East with pity a natural one always misses. It's you let someone roll and then, well, that was fun. I love that for you. And then just simply move on. Like, okay. Conversely, we will enter a room wherein we have, we'll enter a room with Jeremy Crawford and with this lilting, slow-speaking voice that lets you hear every syllable. The most disgusting, fetid shit is happening. There's blood and feces everywhere.
Somebody is either crawling up into or out of an anus.
You can't get away from the orifice. It's war crimes, but the intonation is beautiful and slow. The word of the Lord. It's incredible. And I find it
Home games are the same.
Oh, I would imagine. So
we've had moments.
Using that as a transition, I'm actually going to bring up a Discord question. Space Junks has asked us, this series of ACQ Inc. will be the first time a lot of us have seen you play together or in conjunction with one another. With that in mind, Jeremy, what's the worst thing Chris has ever done to you, as in the context of the game? And Chris, what's the worst thing Jeremy has ever done to you as a player? Because what I've heard is that we all talk about that Patrick Rothfuss bullshit. Mm-hmm. I hear you're his Patrick Rothfuss.
So in my home campaign, I did let Chris get away with endless bullshit, but that's because he was so good at it.
Well, there we are.
And I celebrate it. Of
course.
And when for years I was playing in Chris's campaign, he actually never did anything bad to me because, in fact, my character had the distinction of by the end of our long 4th edition campaign, I was the only character who never died.
Good grief.
Out of like 14 characters.
How? Wow. All right.
Yeah.
It just worked?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? If that's how the relationship works, I won't question it. I love it. It's interesting.
I think.
Go ahead.
I think part of. I'm not sure I vocalized this before, but in many ways, I think when I play in your game and when you play in mine, I think we both, even when we're not doing it consciously, we play as the DM's friend.
Yeah.
And so we're always looking because both of us have spent most of our lives as dungeon masters,
Yes.
anytime I play, I view my role as a player as how can I amplify whatever the DM is putting down. And so I view myself
You
almost
would
as
let me have my historical discourse, you sweet angel.
Oh, I would. And so, and so, like in my game, one of the reasons why I delighted in all of your rogues bullshit is because Chris always knew exactly when to do it to instigate something cool.
Okay. Yeah.
Like he would sense when, like, the rest of the group is going to have a 45-minute role-playing session. Or, they're about to have another shopping montage. His character, like, okay, time to, dump over the burning oil. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know Jeremy's got all these plans that he's waiting to roll out, and it's like, I'm going to push toward
absolutely.
the plans. Yeah.
You're trying to it's like you're drift compatible at this point.
Yeah.
You're able to detect each other's agenda and
Yeah,
help
we have a lot of similar sensibilities when it comes to story structure. So like if we sense, it's easy to sense when the story isn't going the way it should.
when you're on your third fucking shopping montage and someone's gonna make you role play the goddamn guy and it's all right, yeah, fine, you want pants? So I appreciate that. So here's another you say the DM's friend, is that different from the teacher's pet? Is that because this is another question? Do you have a character you enjoy picking on the most out of this crew? Is there a character you like enjoy interacting with the most or pushing a little bit? Is there a teacher's pet? Do each of you have one?
That is a great question. I would say the one that I like to pick on the most is Omen.
Of course.
Because he's the leader of the party. And if they're getting into all these bad situations, some of that shit needs to fall back on him. But part of it is Jerry's just so game.
Oh, he takes it well, for sure.
Yeah, he's just so game. He gives it and he takes it, and he's such a sweetheart. And his expressions are fun to watch.
He loves to be the butt of a joke and
are not going his character's way.
Oh yeah.
It's just too much fun to pass up. And then the one I guess I'm probably, if I have a sort of a teacher's pet, it might be Evelyn. And that's simply because Anna is also in my home game.
Of course.
And so I'm more protective of her because
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, she's, plus you have to see her later.
Yeah. Well, right. And she they're all great people, of course, but she's the closest to family to me.
Yeah, for sure.
And before he took his break, I had fun throwing obstacles in front of both Omen and Jim. And again, they're both so game. They roll with adversity so well. They're funny. They're delightful to just lob shit at.
Oh, absolutely.
I would say everyone else, I often have this sense because for a long time, the other players were cycling in and out.
Yeah.
My feeling toward them has often been that they're guests.
Yes.
And so I often feel it's like my responsibility almost as a host to treat them well.
Yeah, give them a good time.
And so that's why I've generally had most of the bad stuff hit Omen and Jim.
Sure.
Now, that's been able to start changing because we have more series regulars. And so I have noticed in myself a greater willingness over time for rough things to happen for the other characters. But that's taken a while because, again, it's almost like you're a guest in our house.
No, completely. It's,
There's sort of another category for me, and that's there's usually one player in each group who is always sort of pressing up against the rules and trying to move past what the rules can do and do impossible things.
Absolutely.
When I first started playing, Scott did a little bit of that, and then Patrick did a lot of that.
Oh, yes.
And it was funny to basically let that one player do things that nobody else could do, that even the dice wouldn't normally let them do, just because it's entertaining.
Absolutely.
And I feel like Xavier has marched strongly into that role. He's the one who's throwing just the absolute fantastic, harebrained.
Oh,
the rules will never cover this.
Looney Tunes horse shit.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's not in a book. That's never
exactly.
Gonna be in a book.
I'm going to hit this frying pan with this pick to drive the frying pan into the stomach of this monster.
He's created a Rube Goldberg machine.
Yeah, it's just absurd, but it's delightful.
I love it.
And as a DM, I'm like, yes, do that wacky thing.
You're like, I want to see it, so it should happen. So of course the DM session never goes entirely to plan because people either pick up or entirely miss or fall in love with an NPC or any number of things. So was there anything that you planned that you laid out that they didn't pick up on as like a major story point? Obviously, I think it was actually pretty clear, and we even discussed some of them at the ends of episodes where it was like, yeah, you could have, stepped into the obvious bear trap, but you noticed it was a bear trap and moved on. But was there anything plot-wise, or at least that you're able to share with us at this point, that they didn't pick up on or they moved away from, or they're like, shit, I was gonna show them this guy?
So the Underground Lake episode, I was treating as the emotional setup for the finale.
Yes.
And the big thing that didn't happen there is everyone went into the psychic lake except for Jim. And so the big question is, what would Jim have seen? And Mike has even asked me, can you tell me what I was going to see? But I told him I won't, because it might still happen in a future episode. Yeah. But that was probably, at least in that episode, the main thing that it was prepped that didn't happen. And then in the finale, I had no idea how they would respond to the big choice that was placed in front of them. So I was prepared for several eventualities. I didn't know if they were going to fight in that final room with the certain someone who was waiting for them there. I didn't know if they would role play their way through, or it would be a mix. So it was fun to see what they chose, and then things that I prepared that didn't happen, I can always use in some other episode.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I had prepared stuff that they either didn't get to or we just ran out of time
keep
for.
It in your pocket.
Exactly. The only thing I did any kind of new real design for was a monster that they unleashed in one episode but then didn't fight. So
okay, so that's fun.
Yeah,
that's a fun little hidden treat. I think, let me see. Oh, the obelisks. Forgot to come back to this. This is an element that I hear in talking to you earlier that you've seeded like possibly decades back.
Yeah, and this is something that Chris started doing in early 5th edition adventure products.
Okay.
And so it's been building toward the book that you mentioned earlier, Chris, Fendelver and Below, The Shattered Obelisk. And so it's very fresh in our minds because we finished up that book relatively recently. And again, you've been placing these obelisks just mysteriously with no explanation in our adventure books for almost a decade now.
I love it. I know, I'm sure, just in my heart, I know that there are probably more of these, and that I could not dream of asking you to give us a hint of where they are. But how long do we think we have to wait to see the next deep-seated bit focus? Is that a way I can ask you if there's more coming, or more goofs?
Well, we shall see.
You mean you can't tell me a secret about about something in the future? I love it. All right, just a couple more silly questions, then we'll just start asking Milo everything he wants to know. So Paul Purr from Discord asks, would you trust the ACQ INC players with a single use of Sovereign Glue? Sovereign Glue being the material that you need oil of slipperiness to get rid of a wish.
Would I trust them? I mean, they'll only harm themselves, really, right?
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. They would somehow get like 2 of them stuck together permanently.
Right?
Yeah. We talk about a strong bond between Omen and Jim, but you've never seen one this strong.
Right.
And then, was there anything that either of you did to each other as a DM or player that really surprised you? Or made you think about something
I have
different?
a terrible memory for stuff like that.
This was an Ariston question, by the way.
Yeah. No, I don't think so.
Not to each other directly. I mean, I've often marveled in admiration at plot points you've come up with, Chris, as a DM, whether I was playing for you or back when you were the regular ACQ INC DM, I'd watch you on stage and oh, that was great.
See, I don't even have any memory of those games.
That's true. You get the disorder where you just get up there and you're like, poof, and then someone's like, great job out there.
Exactly like that.
Yep.
Yes.
That's it.
That happens to me as well. The only reason I can remember some of the more recent episodes I've DM'd is I I, as a part of my prep for each episode, watch the previous episode.
Yes.
Because if I didn't do that, I would have no idea what happened.
I love it.
Because as soon as I step off stage, it's like a core dump. It like fell into the sea, and I have no idea what just happened.
So assuming someone hasn't watched any of the rest of the series, has stumbled on this by mistake because they've seen your lovely faces, if you were going to tell anybody who hadn't watched ACQ INC before why they should watch it, what would you tell them?
I'd say it's a fun, dumb way to learn the wonders of D&D and how fun a game it is, and how easy it is to play. I mean, all you really have to do is get a bunch of people around the table, somebody set up some situation, and just let the players go and kind of roll with the wacky hijinks.
Yeah, and one of the things I've loved about ACQ INC for the life of it is how often we show how DMs can let the players drive it. Because something Chris and I often talk about with not just ACQ INC, but really any well-DM'd game is the real secret is just set the table and then let them make the meal, eat the meal, shatter the plates, clean the dishes.
Poop on the chair.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I love how we demonstrate that in episode after episode. And then something else I think both of us have tried to show whenever either of us have been DMing it, especially given our roles as the game architects of D&D, is to show by example. You don't need to have all the rules memorized. You also should always prioritize the fun. Because I know I've sometimes see people online are shocked when either of us will, sort of hand wave a rule or
Shocked, I tell you.
Yes, and we're doing that on purpose because
Of course.
in a way we're trying to lead by example to show people that like the game and all the tools
It's a
it
game.
provides, it's a game and it's all there in service to your fun. And I think ACQ INC has always been a fantastic place to demonstrate that.
Yeah.
That's all the time we have for Accounts Playable. Thanks for watching. Thanks to our cast, crew, and Kickstarter backers for your support. And to you, our DMs, thank you for sharing your time, giving of your labor, and creating the world's greatest role-playing game and this wonderful world for all of us to live in. We'll see you next time.